I had always been the one who kept our group together, the organizer, the glue. Every year for 12 years, I arranged the FRIENDCATION, the rental houses, the transportation, the itineraries. I was the one who made sure everyone showed up. We were a tight-knit crew, 14 of us, all friends from college. But this year, they didn't invite me. I found out on Instagram. A vague story showing a lakefront rental house with the caption, FRIENDCATION 2025. All 13 of us back together again. I froze. All 13? I was the 14th. Confused, I messaged Candace, my supposed best friend. Hey, did plans change? Did I miss something? I waited, but the reply came hours later, stiff and cold. Hey Amanda, I thought someone told you. The cabin was limited this year and we had to scale down. Hope you understand. I stared at her words. They went without me. They made matching shirts. They posted stories. And not one of them said a word to me. It wasn't the first sign things were off. I'd seen it coming for months, after my engagement fell apart. Jason had left me 2 weeks before the wedding. And suddenly, the group wasn't there. At first, I thought it was just life getting in the way. People get busy. But the more time passed, the more I realized I was getting cut out. Last fall, I saw a picture of a holiday party on Facebook. They'd all gone, but I hadn't been invited. I convinced myself it was a mistake, that maybe they assumed I wouldn't want to come, but deep down, I knew better. I reached out to Brandon and Naomi, asking why I hadn't been included in the trip. Brandon didn't answer. Naomi sent a half-hearted text. Yeah, it was last minute. I wasn't sure if you'd even want to come. I checked the group Instagram again, scrolling through pictures of matching pajamas, personalized drink cups, and a video of some friend awards ceremony. And there he was, Jason, with his arm around Rachel, one of my friends, the same Rachel who I had introduced him to. Now they kept him, and I was gone. I sat in my dark apartment, phone face down, wondering what I'd done. What had changed? What did I do that made me so disposable? I needed to talk to someone, so I called Deha. She didn't sugarcoat anything. They iced you out because you made them uncomfortable, she said. You weren't fun and easy after what happened with Jason, so they picked comfort over loyalty. She didn't hold back. You did everything for them. You made sure they had everything they needed. You were the one who held it all together, and now they're pretending you never existed. Her bluntness hit like a slap, but it woke something up in me. They didn't want a reminder of their own crap, she said. You should do your own trip, something big. Let them see what they threw away. I laughed, but it stuck. It stuck hard. So I did it. I found a rental 2 houses down from where they were staying, a luxury lodge. It was expensive, but I could make it work. I started calling people, not from the old group. People who had stuck by me when things fell apart. Deja, a couple of coworkers, a few yoga friends. Within 2 days, I had 7 confirmations. I booked the place. Deja found a chef. I arranged for a local winery to host a tasting. The more I planned, the more I felt like myself again. Focused, in control. I didn't post anything about it. I didn't say a word to the old group, but I made sure we were arriving the same weekend. Let the chips fall where they may. Our group had always been a lifeline. In college, we'd survived breakups, bad decisions, job changes, and 2 divorces together. Candace might have been the face of it all, the one who posted pictures, made speeches, always knowing the right thing to say. But I was the one who made sure everything actually happened. I booked the rentals, handled the logistics, organized the rides. I planned every trip down to the last detail. It was me who kept the calendar, made sure no one was left out, and kept everyone in the loop. They needed me, they knew that. Or at least they used to. But after my engagement fell apart, things started to shift. Jason left me 2 weeks before the wedding. It wasn't just the wedding that collapsed. It was everything. I felt like I was sinking, like I'd lost my place in the world. And that feeling seemed to spread to the group. At first, I told myself it was just a coincidence. Life was busy. Everyone had their own stuff going on. But slowly, I started to notice how much things were changing. Candace was the first to get awkward. I'd call her, and she'd always be busy. It started with little things. She didn't respond to texts the way she used to. The tone in her voice was different when we talked, like she didn't know what to say anymore. Our conversations became strained, surface level. The same thing happened with a few others. They stopped reaching out. They started making plans that didn't include me. I told myself it wasn't personal. Maybe they didn't know how to deal with me after Jason left. Maybe they didn't want to remind me of the mess I was in. I kept trying to convince myself that it was all just a misunderstanding. But then, last fall, I realized I was being shut out for real. I noticed I wasn't in some of the group chats anymore. At first, I figured it was a mistake. Maybe they forgot to add me back after I switched phones. But then, I heard through a mutual friend about a holiday party they had thrown. I wasn't invited. I didn't even get a heads up about it. The worst part was that it wasn't a one-off. It was a pattern, a slow, methodical exclusion that I had been too naive to see before. I tried to talk myself out of it. Maybe they assumed I wouldn't want to go. Maybe they thought I'd be too much of a downer. I told myself all sorts of things to keep from facing the truth. I kept telling myself it wasn't their fault. But it was. I sent a message to Naomi. "Hey, was there a party I missed? I didn't get an invite." Her response was weak. "Yeah, it was last minute. I wasn't sure if you'd want to come anyway." That line kept echoing in my head. I wasn't sure if you'd want to come. Like I was the problem. Like I wasn't even worth the effort to include. I stared at her message for a long time, trying to figure out if I was just being overly sensitive. But deep down, I knew. I knew what was happening. Brandon, who used to be one of my closest friends, ghosted me entirely. I'd texted him asking if I could swing by a few weeks earlier, and I never heard back. The silence felt heavier every time. And still, I tried to tell myself that I was just overthinking it, that I was being paranoid. But the more I looked around, the more I saw what I was losing. I didn't just lose my fiancé. I was losing the people I thought would be there no matter what. The group was slipping away, and I wasn't sure if I had done something to make that happen, or if it was just easier for them to drop me when the reality of my pain made them uncomfortable. It hurt, but I kept it to myself. I didn't want to admit it, even to myself. I didn't want to acknowledge that they were walking away. It was easier to pretend everything was fine, to keep organizing my life the way I always had. I even tried to reach out to Candace once more, to see if she wanted to meet for coffee. But when she replied with a vague, "Maybe another time," I knew. The truth was, I had been there for them. I had been the one who kept us all connected. But now that I needed someone to hold on to, they were gone. They had decided I wasn't worth the effort anymore. And I hated that it took so long for me to finally see it. I sent messages to Brandon and Naomi the next morning. I needed answers, even though I knew deep down what the answers would be. Brandon didn't reply. Of course he didn't. He hadn't replied to any of my texts in months, and I'd let myself believe it was just an oversight. Naomi, though, finally responded hours later, in that detached way she had taken to. "Yeah, it was last minute," she wrote. "I wasn't sure if you'd even want to come." I stared at the screen for a long time, my mind running in circles. Last minute. They'd been planning this for months. They all had matching shirts, matching drink cups. They'd posted so many pictures, tagged each other in stories like it was the greatest thing that had ever happened. The Friend Awards ceremony video made me want to throw my phone across the room. I opened the group Instagram page, fully aware of what I'd see, but unable to stop myself. There was Rachel, smiling with Jason, my ex-fiancé. The same Rachel I'd introduced to him. The same Rachel who now had her arm wrapped around him in every damn picture. My heart sank, the hollow feeling growing in my chest. They kept him. They kept the one person who'd shattered my life and dropped me in the dirt. And they cut me out. I leaned back against the couch, the room too quiet. My apartment felt too empty. I had no words left. No anger, no tears. Just a numb emptiness. I turned the phone face down on the coffee table, staring at the back of it like it was a foreign object. I felt stupid. I felt so stupid. What had I done to deserve this? How had it come to this? I thought about everything I'd done for them over the years. The endless planning, the sacrifices, the late-night chats, the trips I'd organized, the way I always put the group first. I'd never asked for anything in return. I just wanted to be included. I never thought I'd be the one left out, the one abandoned. I should have been angry, but the anger felt distant. Instead, there was this crushing weight of being forgotten, of being so easily discarded. I kept asking myself, what did I do wrong? Maybe if I hadn't been such a mess after Jason left. Maybe if I'd been easier to be around, like the old me. Maybe if I hadn't leaned so hard on them when I needed help. But no, I couldn't be that person anymore. That person had been erased, like she never existed. I pushed myself up from the couch, walking into the kitchen and opening the fridge without thinking. I grabbed a bottle of wine, cracked it open, and poured a glass. I wasn't even sure if I wanted it, but I didn't know what else to do. The wine didn't feel like a solution, but it made the silence in my head quieter for a while. I thought about reaching out to Deja, but I wasn't ready to talk about it yet. I didn't want her to have to say the things I already knew. So I sat there in the dark, holding my glass, feeling the weight of everything. All those years, all that history, gone. I was alone, and it wasn't the kind of alone where I could just call someone and it would feel better. This was a new kind of isolation, the kind where you realize that even the people you've known for a decade can forget about you when it's convenient. I couldn't sit there in my apartment, staring at that phone anymore. I grabbed it and called Deja. She was always blunt, always honest, and right now, I needed someone to say exactly what I didn't want to hear. When she picked up, I didn't waste any time. They're gone, Deja. They left me out of the trip. They're all there, having a blast, and I'm not even on their radar. She didn't soften it. Yeah, I figured. You're not their fun, easy friend anymore. You made them uncomfortable. I bristled. Uncomfortable? I didn't ask for this. I didn't want my life to fall apart. Deja's voice was firm. No, but that's the thing. They couldn't handle it. You were hurt, and that was a reminder of their own stuff. So they picked comfort over loyalty. They didn't want to deal with your pain because it made them feel bad about their own lives. The words hit hard. She wasn't wrong, though. I thought back to how many times I'd held things together for them. The trips I planned, the times I dealt with drama that wasn't even mine, the money I split when someone was short, all of it. And now I was the one left out. I hadn't even been given a chance to heal. I'd been pushed aside as a problem, Deja went on. You were always the one who showed up for them, but when you needed them, they didn't return the favor. That's not friendship, that's convenience. I sat there, quiet, letting her words sink in. She was right. I didn't need them anymore. You should do your own trip that week, Deja said, her voice turning more purposeful. Something big. Let them see what they threw away. I laughed, but it wasn't out of humor. What, like throw my own friendcation? Exactly, she said, without skipping a beat. You've always been the one who made it happen. You could do it without them, and do it better. I shook my head despite myself. I don't even know if I want to go down that road. But even as I said it, something shifted. The idea didn't leave my mind. What if I did it? What if I made my own trip? One where I wasn't just tolerated, but celebrated? I could do it. Hell, I'd been organizing these things for years. Maybe it was time I did it on my own terms. Deja was quiet for a moment before she added, You've already got everything you need to make it happen. You just need to stop letting them decide your worth. It was blunt. It was true, and damn it, it got to me. All right, I'll think about it, I said, though my voice was steadier than I felt. Deja let out a breath, a little relieved. Good. Don't just think about it. Do it. You're not disposable. Don't let them make you feel like you are. She wasn't asking me to rush into it, but I could hear in her voice that she believed in me. That was the thing about Deja. She saw what I was capable of even when I couldn't see it myself. And in that moment, it felt like a tiny spark of something I hadn't felt in a while. Hope. I hung up the phone and sat there for a while, letting the idea roll around in my head. Could I really do it? A trip that was just for me and people who actually cared? Maybe I could. Maybe it was time to stop waiting for them to invite me back in. I felt like I was finally starting to see things clearly. They'd shown me who they were, and it was time to show myself that I could stand on my own. The more I thought about it, the clearer it became. I could do this. I didn't need them. I didn't need their approval, their invite, their permission. I pulled up the exact rental from their Instagram story. A massive modern house with a view of Lake Michigan. Beautiful, sure, but there was no way in hell I was booking that place. I checked the area around it, just out of curiosity, and found a luxury lodge 2 houses down. It was a little smaller but still gorgeous. Exactly what I needed. The price tag wasn't exactly light, but it was doable with some clever budgeting. It was time to start calling in favors. I grabbed my phone, dialed Deja's number. "Hey, I found the place," I said. "I'm doing this." "Hell yes," she replied instantly. "That's what I'm talking about." She paused for a second, probably figuring out how she could help. "I'll loop in my cousin. He's a chef, can make a menu for you." "I'll take it," I said, smiling despite myself. "Thanks." Then I reached out to a few people from my life who actually showed up for me. Coworkers from my last job who had stayed in touch. A couple of people I knew from yoga. Friends who were just real, who didn't flinch when things got hard. Within 2 days, I had 7 solid confirmations and a few maybes. I didn't need the old group. I had real friends, and that was what mattered now. I booked the lodge. It felt surreal, like I was watching someone else do it, but it was done. I took a deep breath, feeling the first real sense of control I'd had in months. I wasn't going to stop there, though. Deja's cousin was already working on the menu, but I needed something extra. I remembered a local wine company I'd done freelance marketing for a few years back. I shot them an email, asking about setting up a private wine tasting for a small group. They replied within the hour they'd be thrilled to help, and they even gave me a discount since we'd worked together before. Perfect. Everything was falling into place. The more I planned, the more I felt like myself again. The old, capable Amanda who made things happen. I wasn't doing this to prove anything to anyone, but damn, it felt good to be in control of my own life again. I felt focused, energized. The fog that had clouded my mind for so long started to lift. I didn't post anything on social media yet. I didn't want to deal with the questions, the awkward comments, the pity. And I definitely didn't want to give the original group a chance to make me feel bad for going forward without them. This trip was for me, for the people who had shown up when it counted, not for the ones who'd turned their backs. But I made sure the timing was right. I checked the dates for the other group's trip, and we'd be arriving the same weekend. I wasn't going to start anything, wasn't going to confront anyone, but I wasn't going to hide either. Let the chips fall where they may. This was mine now. I was taking up space. For once, it felt like enough. We pulled up to the lodge Friday afternoon, and I couldn't help but feel a surge of satisfaction. The house was gorgeous, better than anything I'd ever booked for the old group. It had all the charm I'd imagined when I started planning. Floor-to-ceiling windows with views of the lake, a huge kitchen with an open floor plan, and a rooftop deck that seemed made for evenings spent under the stars. Deja helped me unpack the welcome bags, one for each person. Inside, I'd packed little gifts, local chocolates, a small bottle of local honey, and personalized tags with each person's name written in gold script. It was a small touch, but it felt right. I wanted everyone to feel special. The trip wasn't just about getting away. It was about showing gratitude for the people who'd shown up for me. By the time evening rolled around, we'd set up the rooftop dinner. Music played softly in the background, and fairy lights twinkled across the space. The table was set for 10, and everyone was laughing, relaxed, the way things used to be. I was finally breathing again. I could feel myself returning to the person I used to be, the one who found joy in these little moments, in creating something beautiful. For the first time in months, I didn't feel like a shadow of myself. I felt whole, but that feeling didn't last. Saturday morning, coffee in hand, I stepped out onto the porch to watch the waves. That's when I saw them, Candace, Jason, Rachel, and a few others, walking to the beach just past our house. My stomach tightened when I realized who they were. They were right there, so close. Candace saw me first. Her eyes went wide, and she stopped mid-step. Jason froze too, his face going blank as he glanced between me and the group. I didn't move. I just raised my coffee cup in a silent greeting. Candace's gaze held for a beat longer, and then she quickly turned away. Jason didn't even try to hide the discomfort on his face. They continued walking without saying a word. Not a single hello or hey. Just silence. I went back inside without a second thought. Later that afternoon, 2 of the guys from their group walked past the house on their way to the beach. I recognized them immediately, Steve and Mark. They looked over at me, then gave a quick, polite nod. I waved. That was it. No attempts at conversation, no awkward small talk. It was like we were strangers. Not even a "how's it going?" It wasn't like I was expecting anything, but there it was. The reality of it all. I wasn't a part of their group anymore, and seeing them walk by without acknowledging me beyond the bare minimum made it clear. They were fine without me. I turned away from the window and took another sip of my coffee. Maybe they'd gotten used to this new dynamic. Maybe they didn't miss me at all. It didn't matter. I wasn't going to play their game. This trip was for me. For the people who wanted to be here. Sunday was perfect. Deja's cousin came through with the private wine tasting. The vineyard had sent a knowledgeable sommelier, and he was great. He walked us through the wines with a light-hearted energy that made it feel like a celebration, not just a tasting. We posted a few pictures of the spread. The sun gleaming off the glasses, the long wooden table filled with bottles and charcuterie. I smiled in every shot, even though it felt like I was forcing the smile at times. This was for me, after all. By nightfall, the notifications started coming in. My phone buzzed as I sat on the porch, sipping wine, letting the evening air cool my skin. It started with a few mutuals. People who must have seen my posts and put two and two together. "Wait, where are you? That's the same beach as the FRIENDCATION." The message came from a girl I used to see at parties, but we weren't close. I didn't respond. I wasn't in the mood to explain. Then Naomi texted. "Didn't realize you were out here too. Want to grab a drink?" I stared at her message for a few beats. Naomi had been the one to send that half-hearted text months ago about the party I hadn't been invited to. I wasn't surprised she reached out, but I also wasn't going to make it easy. I ignored her. Then Rachel messaged. "Hey, didn't know you were in Michigan this week. Wild coincidence, LOL." I let the message sit there, unread for a while. Wild coincidence? Sure. Just like how they hadn't bothered to check if I was okay when everything fell apart. I could already feel the defensiveness starting to seep through her words, and I wasn't ready for the bullshit. So I didn't reply. Brandon's message came next. "You could have said hi yesterday." I read it, then set the phone down. Brandon. I hadn't heard from him in months, and now he was acting like I owed him an explanation. I thought about it for a minute, then closed the phone, not bothering to respond. And then, as if on cue, Candace finally reached out. "This is weird, Amanda. Are you trying to send a message by doing your own trip next door?" I looked at the message for a long time, the words sitting in front of me like they were in another language. A part of me was tempted to write something snarky, something that would cut deep, but I didn't. Instead, I just typed out the truth. Not sending anything, just living my life. You didn't make space, so I made my own. I didn't even reread it. I hit send before I could second-guess myself. I set the phone down on the table and let out a breath. For the first time all weekend, I felt like I had finally said what needed to be said. And I didn't feel bad about it, not one bit. Monday evening, I stepped out of the coffee shop with my cup in hand, the crisp air feeling like a small victory. I didn't expect to see them, Candace and Rachel, walking toward me, but there they were, just a few steps away. Their expressions tight. They looked like they'd been waiting for the right moment, like they'd come to settle something, and I was the only thing standing in their way. Candace was the first to speak, her voice sharp but controlled. "Amanda, we need to talk." I set my coffee down on a nearby table, not bothering to pretend I was surprised. "About what?" "You know exactly what," she snapped. "This whole stunt you pulled this weekend. You're trying to undermine our trip, trying to make some kind of statement." I raised an eyebrow, a calmness settling over me that I hadn't felt in a long time. "Undermine? Really?" I looked between them, knowing exactly where this was headed. "I'm not trying to do anything. I'm just living my life." Rachel jumped in then, her tone defensive, like she was protecting a fragile secret. "You're making things awkward for everyone. They didn't need you to show up and steal the spotlight. It wasn't about you." I bit back a laugh, feeling a little lighter now that I wasn't pretending anymore. "Awkward how? By existing?" I asked, my voice flat. "Because I'm not the one who made things awkward." Candace's jaw clenched. She looked like she was ready to explode, but she kept herself in check. "You made everything about you last year," she said, her eyes cold. "People were drained by you. We needed a break. That's all this is." A part of me wanted to scream. I wanted to throw everything in their faces. The years I'd spent holding us together, the times I'd been there when they needed me, but I didn't. Instead, I held her gaze, steady. So you kept Jason, the guy who left me and cut me. That's not a break. That's betrayal. Rachel flinched like I'd slapped her. I watched her try to form words, her mouth opening and closing without anything coming out. He's a good guy. He made a mistake, she stammered, barely meeting my eyes. I laughed, but it wasn't out of humor. It was the kind of laugh you get when you finally see through a lie you've been fed for too long. He lied for a year, and now he's your +1? I shook my head. That's not a mistake, Rachel. That's a choice. The words hung in the air between us, thick and sharp. I could feel them both wanting to defend themselves, but neither of them had the strength to argue anymore. The truth was too raw, too obvious, and it left them stunned, speechless. Candace opened her mouth, but no sound came out. Rachel was staring at the ground, her face pale. I realized then that I wasn't waiting for an apology, or for them to fix things. I was done. I gave them one last look, turned, and walked away. I didn't yell, I didn't cry, I just left. For the first time, it felt like I didn't need anything from them anymore. There was peace in that, and I couldn't remember the last time I'd felt that. As I walked down the street, I felt the weight of everything I'd been holding on to, the hurt, the confusion, the years of trying to fit myself into their lives, lift off my shoulders. I wasn't going to beg anyone for a place at their table. Tuesday afternoon, Naomi showed up. I didn't see her coming at first. She just walked over to our fire pit like she belonged there, like it was any other time we'd hung out. But it wasn't any other time. The air was different between us, heavier in some ways, but lighter in others. She didn't waste time. She sat down beside me and said, "I owe you an apology." I looked at her, letting the words sit in the space between us for a moment before responding. "You do. I wasn't sure how to handle everything last year," she said, her voice quieter than usual. I didn't know what to say, and I didn't want to make things worse. I raised an eyebrow, my fingers absently toying with the hem of my shirt. "So you just decided to avoid me instead?" Her eyes met mine, full of regret. "It wasn't like that. I was trying to be neutral, but I see now that was just easier than actually being there for you." I nodded, processing her words. "Well, I appreciate the apology." I didn't say more. I didn't need to. There was a long silence, but it wasn't uncomfortable. We just sat there, letting the fire crackle between us, the past finally starting to settle into something less sharp. Later that evening, Brandon messaged me. "Hey, could I come by with my girlfriend? We're in town for a few days." I debated for a minute. He'd been one of the first to drop off the radar, and I wasn't sure if I was ready to let him back in just like that. But I figured, if he was willing to make the effort, then maybe I could too. "Sure," I typed. "Come on by." The next day, 2 others from the old group reached out to Deja, asking if they could swing by. Word was spreading, and I didn't need to hear the details to know what was happening. People who had written me off before were suddenly interested again. It wasn't about me seeking their validation anymore. It was about them realizing they'd made a mistake. I could feel it in the air, a shift. Deja pulled me aside that night, after another round of visitors. She looked at me, a knowing smile tugging at the corner of her lips. "They're realizing who really brought people together all these years," she said, a little too pleased with herself. I didn't need her to say it. I'd felt it too. It was like the momentum was turning in my favor. The group I had spent so much time keeping afloat, the one I'd held together through every breakup and messy situation, was now seeing who had actually been the one doing the work. I wasn't the one left behind anymore. I was the one standing tall, and they were the ones scrambling to catch up. Thursday morning, I saw the post on Facebook. A friend from the old group, someone I hadn't spoken to since the split, had put up a status that read, "The trip split into 2 this year. Some of us had a better time." It hit me like a wave. They had split. They had their own trip, the one they thought would be fine without me. And now they were admitting it, if only in the most passive-aggressive way possible. I didn't feel the need to gloat. I didn't want to rub their faces in it, but I wasn't going to pretend it hadn't happened either. The post was a reminder of what I had lost and gained. The group had fractured, and now I was living a reality that felt more real, more right than anything I'd had before. I didn't comment on the post. I didn't need to. I had nothing left to prove to them. The universe had a funny way of making things clear. They were the ones who had chosen comfort over loyalty. I was the one who had chosen myself. On the last night, I sat on the back deck, watching the sunset dip below the horizon. The sky bled with colors, purple and gold, orange and red, and I let myself just breathe it all in. It felt like the end of something, but not the end I'd expected. No drama, no apologies, no need for anyone to show up and make it right. They had already shown me what I meant to them, and I was finally okay with that. Candace never messaged me again. Neither did Jason. Rachel posted a story about choosing joy, and I rolled my eyes at the screen. It was the same old performative positivity they always pushed, but I didn't care, not anymore. Then Naomi sent me a message, a long one, filled with apologies and explanations. She apologized for not being there, for avoiding me when I needed support, and for not standing up for me when I was hurt. I read through it, not feeling angry, just tired. I didn't need her to fix it, didn't need her to explain herself. The words were hollow now. I didn't even know if I'd respond. Later, Brandon sent me a text. "I'm sorry for how I acted. You showed what real friendship looks like." I didn't respond, but a small part of me was glad he'd finally figured that out. He could thank me all he wanted, but it didn't change the past. By the time Deja and the others started making plans to do the same weekend again next year, same house, same people, I realized I hadn't reclaimed the old group. I didn't need to. I had something better now. People who showed up, people who didn't flinch when things got hard, people who weren't afraid to see me for who I really was. I didn't need permission to take up space. I had learned that in the quiet moments, the ones when I was alone but not lonely, the ones when I had finally allowed myself to be fully seen. You don't need permission to stand in your own life. You just need the courage to do it. And I had it now.